Mills fashions a kick back towards the wing for Lady! Left now, lines them up. It's coming back. Cox is the biggest man there.
G'day guys, welcome to Red Time. Jared Barker, Mason Cox here for a massive episode 10, double digits. You're not here to celebrate the milestone episode, Mason. You're off on a little bi-week getaway. Where are we finding you today?
Man, I'm in the hinterlands of Byron Bay near a place called Federal. I'm not really sure. It's somewhere 30 minutes inside the coast, but beautiful. And the sun is setting behind me, and it's an incredible place. I am rejuvenated and filling the cup up for the bye week.
Well, enjoy that. Is that a solo trip, or a few boys go up there as well?
We got training tomorrow. There's about 2 or 3 other guys that are up here in Byron Bay and a few others in the Gold Coast. But it is a solo trip for myself. I'm up in a cabin in the woods at the moment. So amazed I actually have connection here. It's pretty incredible. But no, we'll catch up tomorrow for a little kick around with some of the guys on the team, which would be good, and take the legs over.
I'm sure it'll cut out eventually, but we'll push through as we do. We push through adversity here on Red Time. So don't worry, we'll still get an episode to you guys. I just need still half an hour of your time, Coxy. I know you were itching to get this started because you've got a beautiful sunset there that you're going to miss because of the time that we're recording this. I won't take too much of your time. I just want to firstly say I did check with Champion Data if we could get the strike rate of players' shots at goal whenever you're standing the mark, but it's something they don't actually track. So we'll never know how effective your psych out is. And if you listened last week, you'll know what we're talking about. If you didn't, then bad luck. But I just wanted to put that out there. I do apologise, but it's not on me. It's on Champion Data. Maybe in the future they can add that to their arsenal of stats that they keep. So we'll see, mates. We'll see. But if I were you, I'd just keep on doing it.
Mate, they got that much just stupid data that they just throw at us all the time. They tell me they can't tell me how many times my Jack in the Box move works. Come on, what is this? Champion Data, get your stuff sorted.
I want to go back to King's birthday. That's where we're going to start this, the main body of the pod, because Stephen May and Max Gawn got into a little heated exchange at the concluding stages of the game. So obviously Max Gawn had that little shank off the side of the boot really late in the game. It fell into the waiting arms of Will Hoskin-Elliott. It sealed the game for the Pies. Stephen May came over and had some words. Gawn then shoved him aside a little bit. Not sure what your take on that is. I think it's okay. It was definitely an interesting interaction. It's not the first time we've seen something like this happen on a footy field. And to be honest, Stephen May has done this sort of stuff in the past. But I think generally we have seen it happen before. What's your take? Is it passion? Is it two blokes that care? Is it bad optics? And do these exchanges happen more often than fans actually realise?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate circumstances the camera was on them. It's two people that are very passionate, obviously heat of the moment, given in the very last 30 seconds of the game. You know, Max Gawn takes a great mark behind the ball and he gets him an opportunity to maybe slingshot going forward for a last chance of trying to kick a goal and maybe win the game. And obviously, you know, goes off the side of the boot and goes to Will Hoskin-Elliott. And, you know, Stephen May is a fiery guy, as we all know. And I think in that moment, he was probably, you know, disappointed as Max was and as Melbourne would have been, and you know, maybe showed it a little bit too much. And I think Max's reaction just it wasn't even really anything crazy. I mean, he just kind of pushed him aside, be like, mate, like just chill out a bit, you know. So I can understand in the heat of the moment that interaction happening, but I think from the perspective of the viewer, it didn't look too great for the Melbourne Football Club. For some reason, I feel like that club always has some drama around it. You can think back to the beginning of the year and years past, there's always something going on over at Melbourne Football Club. But, you know, I think Max Gawn, who's just one of the biggest legends of the game and, you know, has been an incredible captain for that club for so long, he would have been disappointed in himself, as I can imagine anyone would. And I think in that moment, he probably wasn't ready for feedback that quickly as soon as the game was finishing.
Is there a moment like that you've been involved in specifically? Like, have you ever had that sort of interaction with a teammate?
I don't think anyone would like physically kind of like push in that sense. And like I said, the push wasn't even really a push; it was just kind of tap almost. But there is verbal feedback on the field. Like we all, you know, hold ourselves to the highest standards. So whenever you're not being able to perform at where you want to perform, yes, there's verbal feedback. I mean, I can think of how many times I've lost a center bounce and I've got a spray from a midfielder because he's done his job to be his guy, but I haven't done my job to get the ball to the area that he wants it. So I think there's definitely feedback that goes on in the game, but I don't think you would see it because the only thing that might pick it up is an umpire's mic. That's the only thing that might pick it up. But most of it's pretty verbal, and it's coming out of, I guess, expression of wanting you to do better and knowing you can do better and trying to get that out of you. So there are verbal, I don't know if you call it altercations, but feedback would be the best way to put it, I think. There's verbal feedback on a field throughout a game between players, depending on the teams going, individuals going, and things like that. And everyone handles feedback differently. Some people need to have a bit more in-your-face feedback, where others need to be a bit more cuddled in a sense. And it's dependent on the player, and I think that's where a coach's experience comes in handy as to how to deal with each player to get the best out of them. And sometimes it can change depending on one person from another.
Yeah, I don't think it comes as much of a shock to fans to hear that the verbal sort of stuff does happen more often than we realise. But you say it's verbal. How honest and how heated can those conversations actually be? And then how do clubs handle it behind closed doors as well?
Yeah, it's depending on each club's culture. I think ours is quite a positive, just oversight of everything. Like, I think everything we look at in a glass half full kind of talking point. And there is times where you need to give direct feedback to say you need to do this next time or you need to sort this out. But I would say for our club overall, we're pretty positive. There's not too much negative feedback in that sense, and we try to, say that players need to play to their strengths, and that's kind of where we hold everyone to account. I can't speak on other clubs, but I know there are other clubs out there that give a lot more direct feedback, and it's, maybe not so positive all the time. And I think also it depends on, how the team's going. If the team's got wins on the board, obviously things are going to be a bit more positive. But if your team's losing games, you're under pressure, or the coach is under pressure, or players are out of contract, or whatever it may be, like you can imagine, you can get caught up in the moment and have some negative feedback being like, hey, man, you need to hold yourself to a higher standard. And people will let you know that. So it's depending on the scenarios and depending on the culture and the different clubs and everything else. But like from my personal experience under Craig, I think it's been a very positive kind of feedback, knowing that you can do better whenever you haven't performed. And the expectation is out of love and care to try to make you best player on and off the field more than anything.
I'm pretty nonplussed about most things in life, to be honest with you. So I might be in the minority of Australian footy fans when it comes to this, or the minority of media as well, to be honest with you, that just doesn't care about seeing this sort of stuff. In the pursuit of success, I think tensions can sometimes boil over. They're both clearly pretty frustrated, and I think as long as they talk it over afterwards and keep it professional, then I think it's okay. Moving on now, last week we spoke about players being open and honest in the media. This week, we want to talk about a player's antics on the field and what should or shouldn't be allowed, what is or isn't going too far and crossing the line on the back of Jack Ginnivan's last quarter goal against the Dogs. So Jack held the ball out with one hand as he ran into an open goal late in the game, seen by some as cocky or unnecessary taunting maybe, and seen by others as just showing some personality or a little bit of footy theatre. Do you think it detracts from sportsmanship, or does it merely just add to the game's entertainment factor?
Oh, man, given my background, I think you probably know the answer to this one. I say it's not enough, Ginni. Step it up. Come on, take it to another level. Turn it up. Crank up the heat. Do something more than just show them the ball. Launch that thing into their cheer squad and say, duck, baby. It's coming straight for your head. I think there needs to be more of it, to be honest with you. I'm all for it. I mean, we're a conservative society in football, I feel like. I feel like everyone's just, oh, man, you show a little bit of character, people lose their freaking minds. So it's Jack Ginnivan. Like, have we not known this by now, that that's who he is? He plays best whenever he's having fun out there. He plays best whenever he's taunting people and kind of making fun of other people who are showing the ball, wherever it is. That's Ginni, and that's what gets the best out of him as a football player. And if that's what happens whenever he plays well, then let him do it. I think as a Hawks supporter, you're going, do it more. Like, and who cares? Who cares what the opposition thinks? It's not like it's a free kick. It's not like it's hurting anyone. Some people think it's bad sportsmanship. It's like, okay, cool, man. That's your opinion of it. But if it brings the best out of him and he plays the best while doing it, why would I tell him to stop? I don't think that's a thing I'd want. I want him to play at his best capacity. So keep taunting. Keep doing whatever you want, man. I don't really care. So that stuff just annoys me. I'm just like, man, turn it up, screw him, go to the next level. Ginni knows this. I've talked to him about it. I'm like, dude, I don't care what the media has to say. I don't care what the average punter has to say. Turn that up to 10. Turn it to 100. Screw it. Who cares, man? Just live your life.
I agree with you. I think footy is better when we are a little bit more lighthearted with certain things. I mean, look, Mabior Chol did say after the game that he didn't like it. I believe Sam Mitchell said he doesn't care and doesn't have an issue with it. So everyone is going to be different, which is totally fine. But as a player, how do you react if an opponent does that sort of thing? I mean, you said there you don't care about Jack doing it. When you're out there on the field and the opponent does it, is it the same thing? You just don't really care?
I wouldn't care, but I mean, if I got a chance to probably, have a decent knee to the back of his head, I probably would. And that's just kind of part of it. If you're going to do that, you got to know what's going to come at you whenever you actually taunt
Respectfully.
So,
a respectful
I mean, that's as long as it's legal. I mean, it's legal, right? I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you taunt, like Jack knows it. I mean, Jack gets his head taken off every single week, and he has consistently for the last 5 years. So he knows that he's going to get targeted, I think, as a player, and because of his antics, maybe that's the other side of the coin. Is like you're going to get targeted, you're going to get extra attention, and you know what? Like if it means that you're playing better and you're getting attention anyway from another team, it's like, oh, whatever the net positive is, go with it. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like as an opposition, I'm sure Jack will do it to us. I'm sure he's done it in the past. Like it doesn't bother me because I know that's his personality. I know that's who he is, and it doesn't even like faze me. I go, yeah, that's Jack just being Jack, like. But I can understand fans getting all upset and just getting frustrated over it. I guess bad sportsmanship, but we sit here and every single media outlet talks about it. So I'm like, well, you can say whatever it is, but it's entertaining. I'll tell you that. We're all talking about it, so it's got to be something.
Well, his tweet read quite perfectly. He said, why everyone want to be so serious, bro, can't have fun. And I think it's one of those things where if he plays for a team that you support, fans don't care. They're generally okay with it. When he does it against the team that you support, you tend to have an issue with it. So I don't like that sort of stuff, but I am okay with what Jack did. I want to know, have you ever been told to tone it down if you've done something like that, or has a teammate ever been, pulled up about it?
No, not really. I'll be honest with you. I think more than anything, coaches have probably encouraged me because I think I play my best if I'm a bit of a cocky prick and get into people. I think the AFL is probably calming down a bit in a sense because they've started handing out fines like it's candy. But yeah, I mean, back in the day, like I used to love whenever I kick a goal, get in a scuffle or, have a bit of a, push and shove with opposition. But nowadays, if you touch someone else in a, somewhat of a, scuffle, I guess you could say, the AFL is going to fine you $5,000, which I think supporters love that stuff. I think obviously it's not probably a great look for the kids out there and stuff, but I'm not going to sit here and say that like every player out there every kid should follow exactly what the players are doing on the AFL. But I think it adds entertainment to the league. But I think the AFL has probably made players tone it down in a sense of physical, I guess, physical taunting. Let's say that.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I tend not to care about these sort of things. So sure, it might be unnecessary, but he didn't kill anyone. He didn't hurt anyone. So it's a non-issue for me. But another big talking point, Mason, this week is goal kicking accuracy. Because there were some teams such as West Coast who were 0-8 at one stage in their game. They ended 6-16, and Brisbane kicked 8-15 in their game against the Crows. They absolutely blew it with 8 straight behinds in the last quarter there. The boys on the podcast yesterday with Champion Data actually went in depth about this and spoke quite well about it. It's really interesting. If you're listening and you haven't heard that, I do recommend you go back and do because it's a really good listen. But the overall shot at goal accuracy in round 13 was 41.1%, which is the third lowest on record for a round with at least 4 matches. So that's a massive stat. And it's why I want to talk to you about goal kicking, because I want to know how much it is worked on at training. I know it is worked on somewhat, and there are a lot of factors and individual players' technique, the pressure in the moment, the different training mechanisms. I know there's a lot to unpack with it, but I mean, how much emphasis is there on practicing goal kicking by coaches, and is it more or less of a focus now compared to when you first started?
Yeah, I think goal kicking has always been a major part of training, like whether it's before training, during training, after training, goal kicking is always kind of, one of the drills that is focused on, throughout the time. So obviously defenders probably not so much, but forwards, it is part of the training schedule. And I wouldn't say it's, changed a bunch of a lot or a little throughout my time, but I think you have certain times where you realize that the goal kicking actually isn't as good as, expected. So therefore you might put more time into it. Now, everyone has a routine. That routine doesn't really change too much. You might tweak something here or there as you kind of go throughout your career. But I would say overall, most players, keep their routine pretty similar. And the biggest thing I think is just being able to practice it, hone it in, and then be able to execute on the pressure side of it. Like that's obviously very, very tough, but there's all kinds of different circumstances that go into goal kicking. You could talk about weather and whether or not it's raining. A ball is held very different whenever it's soaked in rain rather than a dry day out there. You can talk about, whether you're playing like Queensland, how humid it is. You can talk about whether or not, you're in a different ground and then like where you're actually kicking the goals from. So the MCG is a lot wider than Adelaide Oval. If a lot of games are at Adelaide Oval, you'd expect better set shot percentages just because it's skinnier ground, easier to kick a goal. So there's so many things that I think can go into it. I'm not really sure exactly what all that came into this round in a sense, if it affected it whatsoever. But I think from our stance, the goal kicking side of things, like we spend, at least 15 to 20 minutes probably a session just doing goal kicking. And you have this certain players that go over to the corners, and they always try the different snaps and all the ridiculous stuff that never really happens in a game. But that's just confidence building maybe, or just a bit of fun between players for a coffee. But I think the biggest thing for players is to make sure that they replicate game scenario as much as they can whenever they're in training. So, the majority of your kicks aren't going to be snaps around the corner from the pocket. They're going to be out in front at 30, 40 meters. So for us, it's making sure that whatever we train is going to be applicable to game day and being able to try to make that as transitional as far as the skill of it is the biggest thing whenever it comes to training and goal kicking.
So 15 to 20 minutes, you say, and not generally the defenders. I mean, who does practice? I know the forwards have to practice goal kicking, but do the midfielders get in there and practice their goal kicking as well?
Yeah, they do a bit more on the run. So we'll have kind of different things for different players, right? So we've got our small forwards, we'll practice more on kind of like snaps in front of the goal and maybe just kind of like, crumbs and stuff like that. Big guys will practice set shots a bit more, and then you'll have the midfielders will practice kind of goals on the run from about like 40 or 50 meters out, and then a few kind of snaps and stuff too whenever they go into the forward line. So depending on the position and where you're at on the field is the kind of goal kicking you would probably train in a training session. So it just kind of depends. But yeah, I think the defenders not so much. They don't really do too much. It's always a fun experience whenever you go forwards versus midfielders versus backs. And you're always real interested to see where the ball's going to go once the back pulls up to a set shot. But overall, obviously, like depending on who gets that experience more in a game is going to be the one that probably trains it more whenever it comes to a session on the track.
Can it truly be improved with that much repetition? Does it become muscle memory? I mean, it's probably a stupid question. I know it improves with practice like everything does in life, but I guess the question is more, do you think it's more of a physical thing or a mental thing? Because I think both come into it.
Oh, both do come into it. I mean, there's that many injuries and stuff that players are, handling, that whether someone's got a broken hand or a bruised hand or a knuckle or whatever it may be, there's so many things that can play into it. But I think like physically, you can be exhausted in a game. A game could be going really long and your set shot may not be, as accurate. But yeah, I think a lot of it, you don't change. Like I said, you don't change a lot. You can have coaches come to you and say, hey, you were doing this previously. You were kicking through the ball really well, or you weren't leaning back like you are, or whatever it may be. And then you kind of go, oh, I need to make sure whenever I go to do my set shot in a game that's a focus area that I'm really like honing in on, because that's something I'm, just maybe leaning back a bit too much, or, my back's a bit sore and I'm not kicking through the ball, or things like that. So there is little training things that you'll do just to be able to hone in and fine tune the little intricacies that come with goal kicking. But overall, I'd say a lot of it just comes down to repetition and just feeling like you're mentally good in front of goal. So whenever you do get that set shot in pressure, you have the confidence that you're going to kick it.
Yep. Well, as they say, bad kicking is bad footy. And in my eyes, goal kicking accuracy is the most underrated skill in the sport. I've always said it. I always believe it. I'm always going to believe it. That's just my opinion, but I'll never stop believing that, Mason. Now, we're in the middle of the bye weeks, so we're going to do a little mid-season review of some teams. We're going to look at those that have had a bye already. So we'll do 10 teams today. We'll do the 4 teams that have a bye next week, and we'll assess the last 4 teams to have a bye the week after that. So we've decided to do just short and sharp assessments for each team. I'm going to name the team, and then you're going to tell me what you think of them and be as honest as you want, mate. Carlton, let's go. What do you reckon?
Um, Below expected, I would say. They're not
Below?
on a ladder where a lot of Carlton fans were expecting to be at the moment. So I think, yeah, it's tough. I'm not sure where they're sitting, but they're outside the 8, and I think there's a lot of expectations that were coming into this year.
Yeah, I think they're 11th at the moment. But you are right. Expectations were high, flag contender going into it. Their best is pretty good. Their percentage is over at 100 right now without being in the top 8. So, yeah, I think they'll be okay. I reckon they're in reality a top 10 team, but they're probably the 10th best team. They've got a pretty handy fixture as well. So I reckon they'll be around the mark and on the fringe of the top 8 for most of the season now. North Melbourne.
Probably expected. I mean, North is still a young team. They've got a coach that's only been there for a couple of years, 2-3 years now, and you know, it's been a tough time for North Melbourne supporters overall, and there is some very youthful talent. You look at you know, the Ruckman Jerry, and then you look at, you know, Sheasel and a few of these other young talent that's coming through, and there's definitely a future there. But yeah, it's a tough slog for North Melbourne fans. You feel for them, but they're not the only ones. They're not the only ones in the league at the moment. I'll say that.
No, I want to say show us more. Like glimpses of growth, as you said, but still I'm wanting more competitiveness on a more consistent basis, which I think is what everyone's searching for with them right now. Port Adelaide.
Oh, I would say, what are we doing with the coach? I mean, I don't think anyone really knows. I think it's he says he's done at the end of the year, and you kind of go, okay, at what point in the season do the team kind of go, okay, like if he's going to be done at the end of the year and we're not successful, do we, you know, sack him early, or do we kind of keep going with this? I think you see it out as Port Adelaide. I mean, the guy's done, you know, that many finals games for the team, and I know the players are supporting him and want to kind of see him be successful. So I think for Port Adelaide, the biggest thing is, you know, where the future is as far as, you know, the direction of their club. And you know, obviously a head coach is going to be, you know, really important to be able to plan that out to see kind of where they land.
Yeah, let's be honest. The Ken Hinkley farewell tour has flopped. I know we're only halfway through the season, and maybe they can have a strong second half, but I don't think their season is trending the way they would have hoped. Western Bulldogs.
Contenders, that's for sure. I think the Western Bulldogs are definitely one of those teams that I wouldn't say have surprised anyone. I think we all know they're a very good team. Bevo just signed the 2-year deal. Congrats to him. That's a huge kind of, I think, weight lifted off his back. Responsibilities fit firing. So yeah, I think they're a team that's, I wouldn't say they're an underdog, but I don't think, like, after all this stuff I've read in the media, there's not as many people saying that they'd be in the Premiership, which I'm kind of surprised by, because they're a very good team. I think that can go all the way.
Yeah, they've had to fight through a lot of adversity. They've had a lot of injuries, especially at the start of the year. I think their first 6 rounds, I didn't expect them to get too many wins, but they defied my expectations. And now, as you said, they're a contender, especially when they're at their best. And Sam Darcy returns this week as well, or is expected to. So that's huge for them. Fremantle.
Oh, Fremantle, from Sam Darcy to Sean Darcy. There's been a few kind of question marks around their bigs. I'm not really sure kind of where this ruck position lands. I'm not sure if Sean or Luke Jackson's going to take it. I think there's a bit of, you know, wondering as to that, and I don't know. It's a bit of a transition phase. They got Nat Fyfe, who's kind of, you know, played a few games here and there. He's the leader at the club, and they probably want to see him, you know, be able to have a successful kind of back into his career. But I wouldn't say Freo fans are stoked with where they're at. It could be worse. Believe me, it could be worse. You're the better of the two, you know, Perth teams. But I think there was kind of like Carlton, like a little bit more expectation around Fremantle to be higher up the ladder at the moment. And I think they're definitely a good team. I don't think there's anything that, you know, it sticks out as a major point of going, wow, this is something they need to fix. And if they don't do this, it's the end. But I think they're a little bit behind what they would have hoped to be at this point, and what fans expected.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Dockers and what they're building. They're still a really young team. I reckon they may be just 1 year off, though, in terms of real flag contention. St Kilda.
St Kilda, man, I don't even know. I feel like St Kilda's a question mark all over the place. They have good games, they have bad games. They kind of just meander around, and we don't really know what we're going to get from them from week to week. And yeah, I think just a massive, just, I don't know, question mark as to kind of where they're going to land. I don't think many people really know. I mean, they could make it up to finals. They could have a really good back end of the year and, be smashing it and have a lot of confidence going into finals, or they could really fall off. Like, no one really has, I think, a great, grasp of where it is. So I think that one, I don't even know. I don't know is the best way to put it. It could go either way.
That's how you describe St Kilda for the last 60 years. So you're not wrong anyway.
It is.
They've had a few big wins, but mostly pretty underwhelming. All right, your mob on top of the ladder, so you can't be too negative with this one, surely.
I think we're pretty happy with where we're at. We've only lost 2 games, I think, this year. The first one in was it Geelong, I want to say it was. So, I think obviously going into the year, we had high expectations. Last year we had quite a bit of injuries, and this year we've had a few, don't get me wrong, but I think overall the one thing that's probably stood up more than anything is everyone's had this question mark around age and whether or not the experience is going to pay off. And I think that question's probably been answered so far in the first half of this season. And, I think it's a big sign of just how important it is to have experience out there whenever it comes to, playing AFL and being at the top of the ladder and be able to handle, pressure situations.
All right, what do you make of the Suns? Some people will say it's finally happening. They're finally making finals. They might finally actually just make the top 4 and be in premiership contention.
Man, I'm a huge fan of the Gold Coast Suns. Just got to put that out there. Big Gold Coast guy. Big fan of the Suns. Dimma is going very well over there. And I think it was always going to happen. Like, he's a successful coach, knows what it's going to take to get done. And it's a credit to him being able to get them where they're at this year. Obviously, the first year or whatever it was probably getting to know the program, getting to know the players, getting to know exactly how you want to put this thing together. And now you're starting to see you're reaping the rewards of that effort. So, the Gold Coast Suns are firing, and it's going to be interesting to see if they make their first finals campaign. I hope so. I really do, and I think they will. And that's a good sign for the Gold Coast fans.
Yeah, I think we all want it to happen. They've got a game in hand as well and are right there on the fringe of the top 4, so they'll be okay. Tigers and the Swans.
Tigers, to be expected. Obviously, they're rebuilding. They got a lot of young kids over there, and I will give it credit to them. Beating Carlton round 1, I think that was the biggest shock of all. I think everyone, like I said, was thinking Carlton's going to be a top 4 side. They're going to make a run at the premiership, and then Richmond comes in, who everyone goes, they're rebuilding, and they're not shying away from it. And they go in there and beat Carlton, and everyone's just like, holy smokes. Are they going to win more than one game this year? Like, a lot of people were questioning whether they'd win a game this year, and then they come out in round 1 and end up just proving everyone wrong. So I think Richmond it's understandable where they're at. Obviously, you want to win games, but I think they've shown signs that their young talent is motivated to do something, and that the rebuild probably won't be as long as some people may have predicted it at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, it's not too much to say. I mean, as you said, the rebuild is in full swing with them. If I can say something on Sydney, I reckon their season's just been ruined by injuries. No Papley, no Goulden. Inconsistency with the key forwards that they've got there out on the park. Callum Mills missed for quite a while as well. What do you make of the Swans?
Yeah, Swans, it's a tough one. You go from the grand final last year, obviously heartbreak and everything else, and now you're sitting outside the 8 halfway through the year. It's you'd hope to be in the top 8, and obviously they haven't had too many people leave their club, so the talent's definitely there. But like you said, it's been injury ridden, and that's kind of that's cost them a few games, I think, in the sense of not having their best players out there. Which kind of reminds me a little bit of us last year. I'm not gonna lie, kind of reminds me of Collingwood last year with a few injuries to key players. And with that happening, it's you have to play a little bit more of an inexperienced squad, and unfortunately, it's going to cost you a few games throughout the year.
I think that's fair. Good stuff. Good assessments. Good assessments from you. We'll have a go. As I said, next week, Spy teams will be back with more assessments for them. And then the week after that as well, we'll finish off all 18 teams. It's just funny how the mid-year buys are going to be over and we'll already be at round 17. It's just crazy to think about. But we push on into the final stretch of the pod. Don't be surprised if I'll get us started with this. We've got one each today. Don't be surprised if the AFL finally caves on the grand final start time, just not this year. So the AFL Commission obviously met with the 18 club presidents earlier in the week. They ticked off on the 2:30 p.m. start time, the traditional time slot, which I'm in line with, the first bounce. But I just think the pressure from broadcasters and that ongoing push for a bigger TV spectacle, it's not going to go away anytime soon. So fans might back tradition now, like I do as well, but Yeah, I just think don't be shocked if in the next 5 years or so we'll be watching a twilight or even a grand final at night at the MCG. I don't think the talk's going to go away, and I think it's just a matter of time before the AFL gets swayed by the pool of TV ratings.
I agree. I found it amazing that there wasn't a nighttime grand final whenever I first came here. I get that's tradition, that's part of the experience, everything else. But I don't know. Like, I mean, you look at primetime games, Friday night, Saturday night, Thursday night, and the fact that the grand final doesn't align with whenever the most viewers are watching football is kind of a crazy idea. I understand, yes, it means that you get to drink all day starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. I get that. Australians love it. Fantastic. But you can still do that and go watch the game at 7 p.m. Don't tell me that that's not possible, because you look at that, man. It is. I remember whenever I was up in the Gold Coast, I went to the grand final in Brisbane at the Gabba, and it was such a cool spectacle. The fireworks, the light shows at halftime, everything that went with it was just so much more entertainment-wise better than any other like grand final I've experienced. And I think obviously the game's going to be the game. There's going to be a good game. That's the two best teams playing against each other. But all the extra stuff that comes with it, I think there's just too much pressure, like you said, from broadcasters who are the ones that pay the AFL in the first place. And also from, I think, just the visual aspect of it, that eventually it will become a night grand final and it would continue from there on out. And the traditionalists will be upset. They'll be frustrated, but they'll have to get over it.
And no sun in the eyes as well at midday.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
What do you got for us?
Don't be surprised. I want to just shout this out, and it's going to be part of the way we're going to finish this, because I think it was such a beautiful moment over the week. Was Erin Phillips got the Hall of Fame induction, and I just want to say a massive shout out to her. Her speech with her dad in the crowd was absolutely incredible. I think anyone that saw it got emotional seeing it, and it was an incredible, I think, moment in the IFL, and I think she was the second female to ever be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to her. I think there are going to be so many more females that now are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame with AFLW kicking off. And it was such an incredible father and daughter moment with her up there. Just the tears are flowing. It was something that I want to shout out just as a beautiful moment, a beautiful time in history for the AFL. And credit to her and Daisy for being able to become Hall of Famers.
Yeah, well said, mate. Well said, and I agree wholeheartedly. Hopefully we do see more in the future as the AFLW competition does progress. Mate, I think that's a good spot to leave it. Go and catch that sunset. I know you're a bit paid off that you're locked inside for this, mate. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks for your time, and enjoy the footy this week. Don't forget your tips. Speak to you next time.